Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the St. Mark's Kids Chat. We have a change in scenery today. We are actually here at church to record. Let's get started. Our lesson for today is from Mark chapter 7, verses 1 through 13. And it's about when Jesus rebuked the scribes and the Pharisees about what defiles a person or what makes someone clean versus unclean. So I used a lot of big words. Do you guys remember what the word rebuke means?
Like say that you're wrong.
Right, yeah. So rebuke means that you're kind of confronting somebody about something in kind of a stern way, right? So do you think that Jesus probably knows more than what the Pharisees know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay for him to rebuke them because he knows everything, right? Because he is all man and all God at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And what does the word defile mean? Have you ever heard that word before? It's kind of an interesting word, but it's used a lot in the scripture. So defile means what makes a person sinful or unclean. So Jesus was really kind of confronting these ideas that we're going to learn about in this lesson about what makes a person sinful or unclean. So in the lesson, the Pharisees had gone to Jerusalem, which is where Jesus was at the time, and he saw the disciples. Remember, those are the people who follow Jesus. The Pharisees saw the disciples eating some food, and they saw them eating with what was called defiled or unwashed hands. And so remember, like when we eat dinner, for example, right? Do I always have you guys wash your hands?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, but that's just to get the germs off your hands, right? So when they say unclean or unwashed hands or defiled hands, they actually mean a ceremonial wash, right? Where they think that it makes you more holy if you wash your hands in this certain way. So
it's a little weird.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different, right? So they thought that ceremonial washing was all about, following the rules, if you will, there was a tradition where the elders would always do this. They would always do the ceremonial washing, but it wasn't just to get off germs. It was a little bit different. It was all about just these traditions that they used to have. So Sawyer, I'm going to have you read.
I'm not sure if maybe they knew about germs back then.
Well, I don't know. Maybe. They probably did.
Not.
But okay, so Sawyer, I'm going to have you read from Mark chapter 7. And I'm going to have you read starting right here, verses 6 all the way through 9. Can you read that out loud to everybody?
Okay.
So it says where Jesus answered.
Jesus answered them. How right Isaiah was when he prophesied about you. You are hypocrites, just as he wrote. These people says God, honor me with their words, but their heart is really far away from me. It is no use for them to worship me because they teach man-made rules, as though they were my laws. You put aside God's commands and obey the teachings of men. And Jesus continued, you have a clever way of rejecting God's law in order to uphold your own teaching.
Thank you. All right, so Jesus, this was his rebuking of them, right? Because they were saying that the disciples shouldn't be eating unless they do this ceremonial hand washing, right? But Jesus says, right? He said, these people, they honor me with their words, right? Honoring me with their words, but their hearts are really far away, right? Mm-hmm. So they were basically saying that the disciples were sinful because they weren't doing this ceremonial hand washing, right? Mm-hmm. So, but, that's something that they were doing on the outside, right? Mm-hmm. So where does sin live? Does sin live like in our hearts, or does it live in like on the outside? Does it live in our hearts?
Our heart.
Yeah, sin lives in our heart, right? And who only knows our hearts? Jesus. Only Jesus knows our hearts, right? So I have a little demonstration that I wanted to show you guys really quick. So, and it kind of relates to what we're doing. So do you see this water bottle? And then do you see this water bottle?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we've got 2 water bottles here, right? So if I were to ask you which water bottle you want to take a sip out of, which one would you choose just based on looking at it? This one, right? Because this is the clean one, right? So because this one looks a little bit dirty. So if something is dirty on the outside, do you assume that whatever's on the inside is dirty?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's what our human brains think, right? Our human brains are trained to think that, oh, well, if something is dirty on the outside, then whatever's on the inside must be dirty. And we just assume that whatever's on the outside, if it's on the outside is dirty, then the inside is clean, right? So, but let's put this to the test, okay? I'm going to take these 2 little cups right here. And I'm going to first start with this one, which on the outside, right, just like the Pharisees, on the outside, they thought that, if you do all these ceremonial things and follow all these traditions, that on the outside, you look like you're clean, right? And not sinful. But let's open this up and let's pour it in this cup and see what it looks like. Ew.
It reeks.
It's kind of yucky and smelly and sinful, right? So this water bottle, in a way, represents, you guys can pull your shirts down, in a way, this water bottle kind of represents, what the Pharisees thought, right? They thought that if you do all these things on the outside, wash your hands, do all these traditions, follow all these rules, from the outside, they think that they look pretty clean. But were they clean on the inside?
No.
In their hearts? No, they weren't, right? Because what is the only thing that makes us clean on the inside?
God.
Jesus, right? Our believing in Jesus. So on the outside, the Pharisees thought that, the disciples kind of looked like this, right? They looked pretty dirty on the outside, right? They weren't following all the rules with the ceremonial hand washing and all of that, right? So from the outside, they assumed that they were unholy or unclean for not following the rules, right? But let's look at the inside of this one right here. So this one represents the disciples' hearts. What is the difference? Is it clear and clean?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yes, okay. So this one right here is clean and clear, right? So only Jesus knows our hearts, right? So, and what can wash away our sin?
God.
Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Believing in Jesus, right? So the disciples, we know that we actually look like this on the inside, both of us, the Pharisees and the disciples, because they're sinful too, right? But the only thing that can wash away our sin is Jesus. And that only happens on the inside of our hearts, on the inside, right? Does it happen just on the outside by, just going through all the motions of following all these rules and doing all these things? They said that these were man-made rules. That's what Jesus said. That all of these ceremonial washings weren't really going to take care of your sin problem, right? So what's going to take care of the sin problem?
Following God.
Following God.
Care of their germ problem.
Well, yes, but we're talking about our salvation, right? So we only look righteous to God when we believe in Jesus, right? So he's the only one. So it's good for us to remember that Jesus paid it all, right? Because previously they used to have to bring like all of these different sacrifices, animal sacrifices and all of that to the temples in order to wash away their sins. And so they did all these, tradition and ceremonial things. But now, who is our ultimate sacrifice that saves us from our sin?
God.
Jesus. Yes, exactly. Jesus is the only one that can save us from our sin. All right. So it doesn't matter what you do on the outside, right? Just like we can't earn our way into heaven by doing good things, right? The only way that we can get into heaven and be clean in the eyes of God is by believing in Jesus. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.